And to me, you go back, I'm sure we talked in either March or April, and I just said, I don't think Western policymakers understand what they got themselves into. They thought they had all the leverage and they didn't.
They don't. Yeah.
And it's the fundamental error that they all made was they looked at GDP and they said, oh, Russia's only the size of Indiana, Ohio, whatever the hell it is, right? Italy. So what? It's like a Moneyball thing, right? Well, that guy, he only hits 220. Yeah, well, he walks. His on-base percentage is 500. Walks as good as a hit. Same thing here. Russia produces whatever it is, 10 million barrels of oil a day. Okay. It's the value of an oil, everyone did it on price of oil. 80 times 10 million barrels a day times 365 days. Oh, Russia's GDP, they're just a gas station. John McCain. It's a country masquerading, our gas station masquerading as a country. No. The value of oil is there's 25,000 man hours of work contained in 1 barrel of oil. The value of a man hour work is $20 an hour, just for easy math. Every barrel of oil has a value of $500,000 per barrel. And Russia produces 10 million barrels a day. And these people thought they could strip 10 million barrels a day of 500,000 of value a barrel out, and bad things wouldn't happen.
Explain what you mean by that number you just said, per barrel.
So if you look at the amount of work, the amount of energy contained in a barrel, it has been estimated at 25,000 man hours of work. And the problem is that Western policymakers, when they decided to pick this fight, to get involved in this fight, they said, oh, well, it's not that bad. Run the GDP. They're 10 million barrels a day times $80 a barrel. Okay, well, it'll hurt a little bit, but it'll be fine. The oil will go to 120, and that'll impact GDP in Europe by 1.2%, and output will fall 0.6%, and it will hurt, but it'll be good. No. You started from a wrong first principle. The first principle is 25,000 man hours per barrel, $20 of value per man hour, $500,000 per barrel is the value of oil, not the price, the value. And you picked a fight with that. You decided to fight.
It's a cloud.
That's the scariest thing about what we're in. And I think people are starting to see the problem. But to me, why it's so scary is there is a fundamental mismatch. There's a fundamental disagreement. And Putin actually gave a speech in June, and it was not covered well here, of course, but he said something along the lines of they are devaluing. There's $7.5 trillion FX reserves that are devaluing by 8 to 10% per year. And that's the whole fundamental argument of gold, Bitcoin, right? Basically, he is pointing out that you're asking me to sell my oil for paper that is going to fall, again, in oil terms, by 8 to 10% per year. And he can't do that because his country will collapse. He will collapse, his country will collapse, his people will starve. That is a fundamental red line. Cannot do it. OPEC has the same problem, which is why they sided, quote unquote, sided with Russia, as our government said, is they cannot sell a finite oil production for paper that is falling in oil terms at 8 to 10% per year as it has. And that's, debt issuance. That's the price of oil. You are going to need, oil's going to have to rise by 8 to 10% per year for the foreseeable future because of peak cheap energy, right? To develop the energy you need to sustain the debt, you're going to need prices to rise because we're out of the cheap stuff. We need to keep having oil, but you can't have oil producers, you can't pay them in paper that falls 8 to 10% per year against their energy output. They're just better keeping the energy on the ground.
Yeah.
On the other side, the Western sovereigns are so indebted that they absolutely cannot survive if they don't trade paper that falls 8 to 10% in energy terms for energy. They blow up. We're watching it happen before our very eyes, empirically. So what's so scary is you have this nuclear-armed energy power that cannot afford to take it, and this nuclear-armed powers that can't afford to not do this deal, the negative real rates in energy terms. And it's really, an unstoppable object against an immovable force. I mean, when this breaks, it isn't going to be like a little move. I mean, these are very tense tectonic plates. When they slip, we're starting to maybe see signs of that, but it's not going to be like, oh, well, inflation's going to go up a little bit. No, they're printing friggin' money to pay for energy. Like, PPI in Germany is what, 40%?
Which is insane. That's insane.
And now you burn the boats. Whoever did it burned the boats. That's why I say it could have been the Russians.
Yeah.
Like, that screws Europe and the Americans way more than it screws the Russians.
Yeah. I think
It
that's
could be the
best,
Chinese.
That's the best way to describe it. Whoever did it, they were burning the boats. They wanted this to,